Blake Reed Evans is joining us today. He is a Zambia ambassador, Redken artist. He is a salon owner. He's a social media coach. And today he's going to be sharing a color melted shag with us. He's a stylist and hair color specialist. Like I said, a social media expert from Sheer Art Salons in Tampa, Florida. He thrives in an environment where passion and creativity meets precision and skill, which you're going to see in his teaching style. And through his career in education, Blake has consistently challenged people in his classes to push themselves further, to think outside the box. And he really pushes himself through hair color techniques, social media approaches, and amazing proven business tips. So please welcome our good friend, Zambia ambassador, Blake Reed Evans.
What's up, everyone? And hi, Andrew. I'm excited to be here with you.
We're so happy to have you, my friend. And I know you have a lot of stuff to share, so I'm going to get off this screen and let you get started, but I'll pop in with some questions.
Awesome. I'll see you in a bit, Andrew. All right, everyone. Hi. I'm so excited to be here with you. Go ahead and drop into the comments what you feel like is the hardest thing when it comes to hair color when you're dealing with hair that is extremely layered. So we're talking about hair color and challenges that you may face whenever it comes to extremely layered hair. While you're all typing into the comments, I'm going to get into it because I've been there, and I'm excited to share with you today just ways that we can approach hair color when it comes to extremely layered hair. In this particular situation, we're talking about shags. So Andrew, if we can go ahead and pull up that image just as a reference for kind of the inspiration for what we're working with. And this is my lovely client in the salon, and we're just talking about placement. Like, how are we able to get a really beautiful blend in within hair color whenever it comes to shags and layered hair? Because one of the big things, and like Janet is saying, thank you so much, is saying, you know, just getting a continuous blend. Mina is saying soft blending. You know, exactly. And Katie is also saying highlights and lowlights not melting nicely. I've been there with you. So let's go to a live image and talk about placement. So when we're dealing with hair color or a haircut that is extremely layered, a huge issue that I've run into personally is this drop off and this break in the hair. So you can see here. And then what I've had happen is I've done this beautiful blend and then I've gotten little steppy bits. Go ahead and drop some hearts into the reactions if you've been there, where you've like melted something beautifully, but then you end up with a hard line whenever it comes to that area. Awesome. Hi, Pammy. I'm excited that you're here. My associate's here in the chats on YouTube. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is just how do we approach this to be able to get a nice melt when we're dealing with a lot of layers. So it comes down to principles, my friends. Everything that we talk about comes down to principles. So when we're dealing with this, these different areas, we need to think about how is this going to fall and melt into each other. So we need to use our principles to our benefit. What I used to do a lot of the time in a lot of color melting is I would go in and start applying the hair color in a horizontal fashion. Well, when this all falls horizontal, you're going to end up with harder lines. So that's why we're going to start switching to a vertical placement. What I also really love about vertical placements is we don't have to take as many small horizontal sections, so our hands can stay messy with color. You'll see in a second. So what we're doing first is we're just drawing like a somewhat horizontal line right at the recession area of the hair, drawing backwards away from the face. And then we're going to use our clip to isolate right through there. Then we're going to come through and we're going to start melting with our base color. So base color we're working with today is Velvet from our friends at Pulp Riot. And what we're going to do first is we're going to use a wide, long brush. And we're going to come through and take a vertical section to start applying that base color to the root area. So we're going to come through and apply it. I'm not upset if it gets on anything else. because we're going to do all the base. Now, the big thing that we're doing through here is making sure that wherever we place this root extension or this root melt doesn't go deep or so deep on the hair strand that when that top layer hits the bottom that they're going to run into each other. So big tip is when you're doing your root extensions, particularly in higher contrast situations, you don't want your root extension to go any further down the hair strand than where that shortest layer is going to live. So we're going to come through another vertical section. So you're like, Blake, why am I taking verticals? The reason why you want to take verticals is because it's going to help slim out the shape, and the vertical lines are going to run smoother so that they don't run as steppy. So we're coming through, applying our vertical section. And as I'm doing this, I'm doing it up and away from the client's face, and I'm really saturating nice and heavy. In one section, I'm going further down the hair strand, and the other one, I'm not going quite as far. This will help create a lot of variance in the color. Now, as we're continuing to work through here, let's check in, see how everyone's doing. Yeah, like the sweeping way to go. Yeah, I love that. And exactly, and it's just all about being able to create blend whenever you're doing these root extensions. And the inspiration image that we shared with you, if we can pull it up one more time, just so that anyone who's joining us can see what we're kind of working towards. It's how do you get a seamless blend within a shag or a lot of layers, because it can be really, really difficult to get that because the hair color can get really steppy. So what we did first is we're going to come through horizontal line to take a big section. Then we are going to take vertical sections within that section to help start the blending process. Now, hot tip, whenever you're trying to get a really beautiful light and bright hairline, go ahead and leave out that very last quarter inch of hair so that when it goes to blend in, you can get slightly lighter and brighter. So even as you're placing vivid colors, you want to think about, where is the hairline at? Do we want it to be lighter and brighter towards the face? In a lot of cases, the answer is totally yes. So we're going to go ahead and drop out that section. So when I pull this down, I want you to see how we're already starting to get some highs and lows as we are starting to blend. Now, the beauty of that is that that's already nice and blended. But remember, the big tip is to make sure that when we're dealing with super layered hair, that wherever that shortest layer is the root extension doesn't go further than that. Reason being is as this gets lighter pieces to it, the light will not sit on top of the dark, creating this weird kind of like steppy, digitally looking type hair color. It'll be nice and blended. That's one of the biggest keys, biggest key things that we're going through and doing. Now we're going to come through with our second color. Our second color we're going to be using from our friends at Pulp Riot, Cupid, and we're going to be applying that on the ends. Now remember, that first image that we shared with you was a inspiration image. I wanted to share with you a more higher contrast look for this live today, because you'll really be able to see the results of what we're working with. So now we're going to come through and we're going to start applying on the ends, but in a vertical section manner. This will help keep everything nice and blended, and so that you can have contrast. Now, what's really cool about the area of the head that we're working with is that we are beneath the parietal ridge of the hair, or the head. So we're beneath the parietal ridge. This hair, my friend, is what we refer to as stationary hair. So that means that the hair that lives beneath the parietal ridge of the head is stationary hair. Now, it's important to know that wherever this hair is where it lives. So wherever this hair is, it's where it lives, meaning it doesn't move around a lot, doesn't have a ton of movement happening to it. So that means whatever you do to it, it's going to stay put. And the way that that impacts our color is that this is where, particularly in a lot of layers, this is where you can get a lot of dimension happening. So in this particular piece, we're going to take that purple color and we're going to drag it down a little bit further so that you can start getting dimension. Now you're like, hey, Blake, I thought you just said don't drag that root color all the way down because you're going to get steps in the color. What's really cool about this is that you have light and dark next to each other, so you have a lot of dimension happening versus this all being one solid color. So you're totally right. If you're sitting there and you're like, well, what if I want like dark color at the roots, lighter color at the ends, but all of the ends are the same color? Then same rule apply. You don't want your root extension to go further than where that shortest layer is going to hit to make sure that you get a nice blend. Now, notice how messy my hands are. That is going to help with the blend and the dimension of the color. I think we all get so caught up on everything being so perfect that the hair color can almost look like overdone or overworked. So big thing is just if you're okay with a lot of blend and dimension happening into the color, don't worry about wipe your hands except for in between each like larger section. So we're just coming through and melting it. Now, the big thing I've learned over the years when it comes to vivid color or bright color placement is that you need to apply these colors as if you are doing the most intense gray coverage you've ever done in your entire life. Because this hair is lightened and these colors are typically very thick. So we really want to make sure that we get really nice saturation. So we're going to come through with another vertical section and really saturate. So you see how much product I'm putting on there. It's to make sure that the hair can get saturated. Now in this piece here, I'm going to take the root down about halfway down the hair strand, and then I'm going to pick up with my lighter pink color for the melt. Now, when you're looking for a lot of darkness to spread down, all you need to do is do longer motions to help blend out this color. Blake, I don't want this to be crazy, crazy dark. I want some of those brighter pieces to show up. Then all you need to do in those situations is to take the pieces of hair and just lightly massage the two colors together with your thumb. Perfect. And Rosie, won't that stain the scalp? You know what, Rosie, in full transparency, it totally can, but it's something that comes off really quickly. It just depends on how dry their scalp is. And yeah, in order to get a result like this, you would definitely need to get this lifted up to at least an 8 or 9 to get it, or yellow, orange, or yellow in most of these cases. What's really cool though, Rosie, is that you don't have to do this with just vivid hair color. You could totally go in there with like whatever your favorite demi-permanent color is. Like I'm a Redken artist, so I use Redken predominantly in the salon, and I'm a huge fan of Redken Shades EQ. So you could totally use contrasting Shades EQ colors to get the end result that you are working for. So now if you notice, right as we're on the front layer of the hair, I'm taking that pink and applying it all the way up to the scalp. Now what's really cool is that this will be a nice bright pink piece, but as I'm pressing that pink into the other color, that purple is starting to seep through. So then now you're going to be able to have the miniest little shadow root up there without it being like a shock of pink from the front. So now we've completed this first subsection that started just right at the recession of the hair, and it's pretty much a horizontal line coming straight back from the hairline. And the goal there is to really establish this hair that is considered stationary to be in one place. So we're going to come through here. We're going to clean up our hands just a little bit so that we can move on. Now, this is personal preference, but all you need to do is just take a little foil and tap it just to get it in place. Now we're going to take this next section down to see where we're at. So the reason why we start at the bottom here is because we're dealing with a lot of stationary hair. Now we're not quite out of stationary hair, so we're going to take one more section right at the parietal ridge of the hair And you want to be a little bit more precise as you take this section, because it's important that this is right on that change of direction in the head. The way that you can find that is just by placing your comb flat against the head surface. Wherever it lifts off is right there, and that is the parietal ridge area. And this is considered stationary hair. Now, again, the hair that is above that, that is hair that has a lot of movement happening to it. So now, and I know that I'm right there because I can see that the layers are not quite as short as the sections that we were taking previously. So what we're going to do through here is we're going to go in. I want you to see the difference between applying your root color vertically, like you saw at the beginning of this, to now if you go through and apply it horizontally. So as you can see, as we're starting to apply it, you're applying it, there is not as much variance there. You can see where you end up with a harder line. So you're like, Blake, you could totally go through and place it in vertically, and you can see that you have to do a lot more work to be able to get that to start to show up. The other thing that you want to notice is that you need to check out your saturation. You can see underneath here where this does not have as much saturation as if I took those fine little vertical sections. It adds maybe 7 minutes to your application across the entire head. But the difference, my friends, is the fact that it's going to be blended more when you do it vertically. That's part one. Part two is the saturation that you're going for. So now we're going to go through and we are going to apply our next section. And what I'm keeping in mind is right beneath it, is some pink that's happening underneath there. So I'm going to go in there and mimic that placement. So we're going to come through and really make sure that that's saturated. Rosie, we're working with Pulp Riot Velvet and Pulp Riot Cupid for this demo. But what's cool is you could totally use whatever your favorite demi-permanent is, like Shade GQ by Redken, Shade GQ Cream, things of that nature. So now that we have that piece taken care of, we're going to move to the next one. Now, for this, I want you to see how when you're applying these types of colors, you want to get the light color as high up as you could possibly want it, and then spread the dark down to wherever it is that you want it to be. So here's the difference. So I'm taking this pink all the way up to the top. I'm going to make sure I get the saturation as I'm going through. So in a hair color fight, the purple is always going to win because it's deeper than the pink, because the blue that's making up that purple is going to win in this fight. So what I need to make sure is that I get the lightness wherever it is that I want it to be, and then I can come in with additional dark and I can spread it down. So you can see as that dark is starting to melt down that hair shaft, it's going to really impact this other color. Because once it's this dark, this far down, there's no lightening it up. So like, look, I'm going to come through and I'm going to really apply that pink up. Like, oh my gosh, it's too dark, too far down. I'm going to apply more pink up really, really high. You can see where that pink really isn't winning in that particular fight because there's already so much purple laid down next to it. So you can see this piece here is a lot lighter than that piece that's darker because of the way it was impacted by the color. So the hot tip, get that light color in there to wherever it is that you need first, and then go in and melt your dark. This could be true just for like a root extension whenever you're dealing with like natural colors and things of that nature. So again, our hands are messy. We're going to get some of that excess product off of our hand. And we're kind of like mixing the color in the head. Again, this is just in the spirit of having like beautiful blended, color melted type color. So we're going to come through, really saturate, make sure that that's good to go, and pull that down. So now we've completed that little internal section. As we wipe our hands clean for this next one. Beautiful. So I would love to know, like, what are some other challenges that you have whenever it comes to blending color? Because it's one of the huge things that we really want to make sure that we're helping you with when it comes to blending, particularly when it comes to layered hair. So now we're going to go ahead while we're waiting for some of that feedback. We're going to drop down our bottom section. So now we're going to come through. And it's just important to take 2 seconds and analyze where everything is falling. Actually, let's go ahead before we even move into all of that. Because I know all of my type A friends are like, what are you doing? Don't let it fall on that. It's all good. Drop that down. So now you can take a second to take a look at the head form and see where some of these layers are starting to hit. So now I need to take that in consideration as we're doing this placement, that when I'm dropping this dark down, I'm going to need to drop it down a little bit further, but I need to make sure that the tips all end up with some sort of pink in some shape, way, or form. So we're going to come through and we're going to start with our color. We're going to be working with our purple color. Really melt that down. And again, when you're doing this, treat it like it's like the most intense gray coverage that you've ever worked with, and then you'll never end up with a hollow spot again. So we're going to come through here. And draw this back. What's really cool too about a technique like this is that this does keep everything up and away from your client's face as you're working on them. Well, in particular nowadays, I don't want to be all up in anybody's face. So we really can start doing these techniques that bring everything up and away. So what's important to know is that there are times to speed up and there are times to slow down as we are doing hair color. So there are times to speed up and there are times to slow down. The times that we need to slow down is whenever we're taking a look at the head form and seeing where the hair falls. So it's just taking a look back and saying, okay, where are these layers hitting? Where is this falling on the head shape? That takes like 3 seconds, but that will help give you a plan of attack as you are going into each of these sections. In where I used to get lost a lot of the time in hair color is I would just keep going and going and going because I thought that I needed to be as fast as humanly possible. And in reality, I just needed to take a breath. So go ahead and drop some hearts into the chat just to lock in the learning about taking a breath. And that should just be our reminder to, okay, what's happening? Where are these layers hitting? What do I want to happen? Right now, we want a nice color melt to happen. So I'm looking at this and I'm paying attention to where the breaks are in the layers. I can see that this shorter piece is right here. So if I make this too light, too high up, I can make it look steppy, because if this is dark underneath here, and this is light on top, I'm going to create a step. Is that going to help me? So I love that. And Mina, yeah, totally. Zigzag sections can be really awesome for blending because it almost creates like a built-in shadow root. So I love that so much. Thank you. Yeah. Take time to breathe. I mean, and that's a huge learning because how many of you have been in the color bar before and you've been like, talking to your bestie at the salon and you're like, well, I think this is going to look really, really good. Or I feel like if I do this, then it's going to look really, really good. But we're not saying I know, you know? So it's really important to make sure that we just take 2 seconds to take a breath so that we can come up with a game plan, whether that's in formulation, whether that's in placement or anything like that. Oh, I see we have a friend from Southern Indiana. I'm from Indiana originally. I'm from good old Midwest boy from outside of Indianapolis. So we're going to come through and we're taking our vertical sections.
Blake, I have a question.
Yeah.
So the fantasy or the kind of super bright colors has been a trend for a super long time. Like, I don't know that we've ever seen something this dramatic within the hair industry stick around for such a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, do you think that do you see it softening? Do you see it shifting, changing? What's your opinion about the trend itself?
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. I think that when it comes to talking about bright and vivid hair color, I think that we're finally getting to the point where people are allowed to be themselves. Corporate America is not, really telling people, oh, you need to look this certain way. Like, they're starting to have this softened approach. A lot of people are remote working. I can't even tell you how many clients I've had that have said, well, I'm working from home now, so it doesn't matter. And to me, that's really exciting. So, Andrew, I think that the big shift that we're starting to see is that people can be themselves. So that's why I don't think that this, fantasy color has lifted as a trend. I think that what we're seeing right now is it is going simultaneously harsher and softer at the same time. What I mean by that is there is a lot happening right now where you're blending natural hair color with vivid placements. And what's really cool is that there's places like, corporate America that will say, well, I mean, I guess at least her entire head isn't purple and pink. And it's ways that we can be able to soften it. So, and I think it's just all in customization. So the big trend right now within Vivid is a combination of vivid color with some natural color mixed in. And the reason why I say it's both soft and harsh, it's soft in the fact that not the entire head is a vivid color, but it's harsh because once I get this applied, I'm going to take Shades EQ 05N and apply it to the rest of the hair to help increase the contrast. So the contrast could be really high. So it's a really great, really incredible question.
Great answer, by the way. I liked that.
Thank you. Thank you. Color melted technique can do the lighter first and then melt it down with the darker. That is an amazing question. Thank you so much for sending that in. So in a piece, you could totally go through and do the lighter color first. So you go in, get your lighter color on, and then you can melt in your darker afterwards. Do you know when I do that the most? And I'm so excited that you asked this question, is when I'm dealing with blondes that are super, 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 super light. And they want that little shadow root, but of course that shadow root is like a level 6 and their ends are a 10. Give me a thumbs up into the chat if you've ever been personally victimized by your root shadow dropping onto your blonde ends. Because I've totally have been there before. And okay, good. We have some friends that have been through there before. So the big thing to recognize for that is get your lighter toner on the ends of your client's hair. Like, I'll use Shades EQ for example. You'll get 010P on the ends of the hair first. Then you can go in and tap the root with your darker color, and that's how you're going to be able to get a beautiful blend. So that's such a great question. Thank you so much for sending that in, because it really is. It can be really difficult when you're dealing with that hair that is super, super light. So what I'm dealing with now is we're going through, and now we're taking a steep diagonal, and is going to be a diagonal forward. So this is where we're starting to save time, because this is a steep diagonal forward line. So we're able to cover a lot of surface area at once. So I'm going to come through and apply this color and really making sure that we're saturating it. So what I'm doing as I'm applying is I'm really opening up the hair to really make sure that there are no dry ends as we're applying this. And then now, spreading her so you can see, there are some dry spots right through there. So we really want to make sure that we go in, lift up that underneath to put some color down, and then now we can really melt this color together. For extra insurance, you can totally just lift up the ends and start working these colors as they're melting in. Do you apply the traditional color? Hannah's asking, do you apply the traditional color and the vivids in separate processes? You know what, Hannah, it's totally up to you and what makes you feel comfortable. What I like to do is I definitely, you do all your pre-lightening first, and then get your vivid color on first, and then go through and apply your natural color everywhere else. Like once we're done with this live, I'm going to take Shades Q5N to the rest of the head just to darken it a little bit. But the reason why I'm starting with the vivid first is getting that direct dye to sit on the hair as long as possible. Now, Shades EQ processes in 20 minutes. This color for Pulp Riot processes anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes. So I know that Shades needs to be on for 20 minutes, and there's no need to let it go any longer. So I'll get the vivid color on first and then the natural color. So that's a really great question. Thanks, Hannah, for sending that in. So now we're coming through this very top layer of the color. So I want you to see how everything is going to melt together. So the reason why we didn't drop the root as far down is same reason. We want to make sure that we don't create too much steppiness within the color. So the trick is just be aware of where your lighter pieces are falling. Andrew, if we could pull up the reference image again, just for all of our friends that are joining us to see what we're working towards. Now today, that is our inspiration image, but what we're using for this look is purple and pink, just so that it shows up even better on camera. So we'll get that image up for you in a second, just so you can see what we're inspired by. That's one of my clients in the salon. Now, what's going to be really cool through this section is I'm going to take this darker piece. There we go. Beautiful. So you can see just our inspiration image, where this one I just worked with like a dark purple and a lighter purple basically to create this look. Same vibe happening here. We're just doing purple with pink just so it shows up a little bit better for you. Thank you so much. So as that's melting down, now we're going to take this darker piece that's melting right through the sides so that you can see that you're getting a really nice piece of contrast. But what I want you to also think about is how your client is going to wear their hair. A client like this is going to wear their hair in its natural texture. Like I totally ran into my client in that image, and I saw her and she like doesn't blow dry her hair really. She maybe blow dries the bangs, but she air dries the rest. So when you're taking a look at someone who wears their hair naturally wavy, there's going to be two things that happen. One, if their hair is wavy, you're going to have some motion happening to their hair color. That's part one. Part two is because it is wavy, it's going to have natural expansion. So this hair is going to naturally lift up on its own. So when it comes to contrast, knowing that this client wears their hair wavy majority of the time, I know that I can go higher contrast on the pieces that I'm doing from side to side. If they wear their hair straighter, then you want your pieces to go skinnier. So everyone at home, I don't care if you're in your break room at the salon, I want you to take your index finger and your thumb out. So whenever the hair is straighter, you want to go narrower. The curlier the hair, the wider you go. Straighter hair, wavy hair, curly hair. You can go as wild as you want. But that's in terms of placement, so that the contrast, so that the color can actually show up. Otherwise, it just looks like one big blob of color together. So we're going to come through and blur through the ends here. Now, this is the best part of what we're doing, which is we're getting into the bang area. So in the bang area, it is all about making a bold statement. Like in that reference image, what I love is that it's nice and bold towards the front of the head. And what we need to pay attention to is, where does the hair live when it's styled? Now in this mannequin, I blew dry the front of the bangs using my Artist Series blow dryer, and then the small thermal round brush. I think it was the 3/4 inch one, and to help create the texture of how someone's going to wear their hair. Now, for someone like this, they're probably going to wear their hair brushed off to the side, and it's going to fall on their face a little bit. But what I need to pay attention to is this piece right here and where it lives. So I know with that piece, I want to make sure that that is nice, light, and bright, because this is going to be a curtain bang version of a money piece. So I know that for that piece there, and for this piece right next to it, when this splits apart, it's going to be light and bright. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to put my dry sectioning clip, which is amazing, right through there to use this as a reminder of, okay, this is really great. I know that I want this to be nice and bright. What I do through here is just some normal dimension work. So we're going to come through, work on the interior of the head. Now, if you notice as I'm sectioning, I'm using my Samvia tail comb. What's really great is as I'm taking these sections of the hair, this is not a harsh tip, like a metal tail clip or tip, where that can cause abrasion to the scalp. Someone who's already been lightened, their scalp is extremely sensitive. So the big tip there is to make sure that you use something like a soft tip, like our Samvia tail comb, to make sure that you're not aggravating the scalp more than it needs to be, particularly after being lightened and you have to go through and do a technique like this. So we're coming through and melting down that color, light on first, and then we'll spread the dark afterwards. And while we're melting all of that down, I'm going to come through to the top section here. Let's get that out of the way just for a sec. And I really want to create a nice contrast for this to work with. So what I'm going to do is draw a diagonal forward section, take another clip, get that out of the way. And I'm going to make this all dark down to halfway down the hair strand, and then pink towards the tips. Because what that'll do is that will give a nice shadow for the brighter pieces to fall on top of. So we're going to go through and up and away from the face. I'm going to go halfway down the hair strand, really saturating to make sure it's good to go. And just in the very tips there, just to help with the color melting effect, we're going to go through and apply that brighter pink color. And then now for the second piece, I'm going to go through and I'm going to apply my root extension only about a quarter of the way down. And then apply this brighter color towards the tips of the hair. And then you guessed it right, this is the best part. We're going to come through to that final piece and we're going to come in and we're going to make this first bright all the way to the scalp. I'm going to get really close so that you can see this part of it. We're going to come through and we're going to apply that bright pink all the way up to the top. Now remember, it's all about where it lives. When this falls, it's not going to fall like a sheet of color over the hair. When it falls, it's going to fall like this piece on this side, where it's going to come up and off the scalp and then move all the way back. So what this means is that this is going to help frame the face, and it's going to be like a money piece situation. Now, if you're like, my client doesn't want to see a harsh grow out, I need to put a deeper color there, then all you need to do is come in and tap right at the root so that you can get that coverage that you were looking for. So let's pull up the reference image just one more time, just so you can see what we were working for and the placement that we did. So to recap, what we did is we first did a horizontal section underneath that started at the recession of the hair that drew back. We took vertical sections to do our root extension, and then we applied our second colors in a vertical section to help with blending. Then we took another section that was right at the parietal ridge of the hair, which we ended up placing our root extension on a horizontal just for learning so that we can see what we're working with. Then as we move through the top, the big tip was to make sure that that root extension didn't drop too far down. Otherwise, we're going to create steppiness within that hair color. So always remember, wherever the bridal ridge is, the hair beneath there is stationary. So it's going to stay in place. The hair above the bridal ridge has a lot of movement to it. So we really want to make sure that we're aware of where the two fall in line with each other. And we're just working with two different vivid colors just to really show it for you. But what's cool is you can use things like Redken Shades EQ to do like a blonde or a brunette or a redhead version of all this. So that's a really great question. So Pammy has a question where it's saying, how do you avoid dulling the in color with the root color when shampooing? Great question. Big thing, dry shampoo should be your best friend. And then the big thing too is in the salon, when you're rinsing your client's hair out, make sure you have gloves on. Lift up the ends first and really flood the root area with tepid water. It doesn't need to be ice cold, but tepid water. Not warm, not cold, somewhere in between. And you're gonna rinse that darker color out first, then you'll be able to rinse the ends to make sure that they don't impact each other. So she's gonna process. What I'm gonna do off camera is I'm gonna finish her bangs, and then I'm going to do Shades EQ 5N everywhere else just to help darken it. And stay tuned to my Instagram. I'll put an image up later this week of like the finished end result. If we're not friends on there, actually, let's connect on there. If we can throw my Instagram name up there, I wanna make sure that we can see each other on Instagram. Let's go ahead and get this going, because now we're gonna talk about our tools and why it's so important to make sure that we really prepare the hair with beautiful color, but also we need to start having conversations with our guests about what tools are you using at home? Because how many of you have ever had a guest that you've done beautiful work on, you did everything right, right? Like you lightened it to the level it needed to be, you did your toner, you even dried the hair, you left it on for 20 minutes, you did everything right. They come back and they're like, my toner has faded, or my vivid color has come off way too quickly. And so, you know, give us a heart if you've ever been there. And then we go into like, well, what did I do wrong? Maybe I should have done a darker formula. What shampoo are you using? You know, then we'll get wild with them. We'll be like, well, are you pregnant? Have you ever known a pregnant person? You know, have you taken any medicine? And she's like, no. Wait, well, I took a Benadryl last week. And you're like, yeah, that's why your color's fading, right? So we do all these crazy things, but are we asking them, what are you using at home? I need to know what flat iron you're using, because it comes down to pure science, my friends. And it is that irons that when it's over a certain temperature, around 390 degrees, it can make the hair color fade. So I'm going to use a competitor iron for a second, but it doesn't matter what brand it is. But what it is that we're going to get this iron on up to 450 degrees. And we're just going to show you the difference that it can have on the hair. So I'm going to get this really close so that you can see what we're working with here and towards the back of the head. So that's huge. Huge there. Rosie's like, have you been swimming in a chlorine pool? I know that's what the vibe of this color is. It's like very like murky and muddy and everything like that. So we want to see, as we're getting it up there, it's at 311. We're getting it all warmed up. But it really is about the conversation between you and your guest. What iron you're using? Are you using heat protectants and things of that nature? And when we get up to it, there you go. You can see that when it gets up to that high temperature, you can see where the hair color just fully departs from the hair, and that's because it's on too high of a heat setting. So Samvia and team, as intelligent as they are, they came up with something to make it easier because the temperatures can be really confusing. It's so hard, like Student for Life saying, like, it's hard to remember the actual like temperatures of what we're working with. So we have a low, a color treated, and a high. So low is great for your fine haired guests. Color treated is for medium textured clients. But what you need to tell your guests is whenever you have an iron like this one, you really want to make sure that you keep it on low, ideally, and no higher than color treated. High is only for our friends that do not have color in their hair and they really want to get it stick straight. But there's no reason for majority of people to go from higher than color treated. High is there just for like really curly textures, coarser textures that need a little bit of that heat. So as we come through, we have this on the color treated setting. You can see, and I'll do another section just so that we can really get the impact. That the color has not faded at all using the color treated setting. So that's why we have to have these conversations with our guests. That's why, like in our salon, we carry these irons to make sure that we retail them, because as I'm talking about how excited I am about my Samvia iron, and then if you're turning around and being like, oh, I don't have it there for you to retail, it's important to make sure that you have those things to back you up. So you can see, just to bring it back, that's at 450 on an iron like that. And this was from our color treated setting where you can see that there is no impact to the color itself. So your tools totally impact your hair color. As a person who specializes in color, and particularly bright colors and blonding, a ton of blonding, it's really important to keep those things into consideration in the tools that you're using. Same with our blow dryers. Our blow dryers won't blow the color out of the hair, because Samvia Professional cares about you and knowing that our industry is dominated by hair color, and the tools that they use at home need to be able to support it. Other reasons why I like the sleeker iron, and I think we have a promo going on with it too on samvia.com, is the fact that this is nice and rounded. So what's great is you can go in, and when you go to flat iron the hair, it's not going to leave a dent in the hair. You could even go through and do some waves and curls and things of that nature in the hair without getting any steppiness going through it. I wonder how this is going to look. It's going to look crazy on a bowl cut, but it's just so you can see how seamlessly. And what's cool, if you notice my shoulder, my elbow is dropped, so it's good body position. You can see how you're able to get all this texture in there without leaving any harsh lines as you're starting to style the hair. So just, my friends, keep that in mind whenever you're talking to your guests in the color consultation, like what tools are you using, what's your blow dryer, how high do you turn it up, and things like that. But the key thing there is that color treated setting. So I would love to know from all of you, what is your biggest learning from today? Go ahead and drop it into the chat. So I would love to know, what is your biggest takeaway from today's session? We talk about color melting and things like that. Rosie, oh, I'm glad that you think it's going to look fabulous, because you're right. We can totally just get a little bit of texture happening through there.
My big takeaway, Blake, was that we can put dark over light, but the light's not going to win the fight with the dark, which is a great point, because I think I've definitely had done that before in the salon, where I'm like, oh, just brush the light up into the dark, where it's like, oh, that's not affecting that. So that was a huge takeaway for me.
Yeah, and I always say it's like a unfortunate metaphor for life too. Like darkness spreads so easy, and lightness is harder to spread around. But that's why we spread lightness first, and then it will win in a fight.
Awesome, I love it. Well, this was great education, and that demonstration that you gave us, because like I haven't personally seen a 450 iron because I never really used them, so I never saw what that temperature can do to color firsthand. So actually seeing you go through that process and show us firsthand how it actually removes the color, it's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things in the salon. Like I keep that thing around for keratin treatments in full transparency, and that's really all it's there for because of how high it goes. In the day to day, it's all about protecting the color and making sure that it sticks around. Plus, this is like lighter and easier to maneuver and stuff like that. So it's all good.
Well, team, let's fill those comments with tons of love for Blake because this was a great session. Thank you so much for bringing some color education to the Samvia channel today, Blake. We always love to have you on. Great education, lots of takeaway points. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And if anyone has additional questions, you can hit me up in my DMs on Instagram. I'll see you all later. Thank you so much.